longest menstrual cycle you've ever had? I was sitting on my boyfriend's lap when my coochie started bleeding. Silas helped me put a tampon in, but I soaked through it in just 20 minutes. We rushed to the ER, and when I bled through the examination table paper 3 times, they insisted on keeping me overnight. The hematologist actually said this shouldn't be possible, while I just sat there shaking. The ride home was silent except for my apologies every time we hit a bump, and I felt another gush. For 2 weeks, he kept making me these protein smoothies every morning, packed with iron for the blood loss. But the bleeding somehow got worse, and I was soaking through overnight pads in 30 minutes. When I mentioned this to Silas, he got defensive and said I was being ungrateful. His voice had this edge that made me shut up immediately. By day 23, I was going through a box of super tampons every 2 days. Silas had started this weird notebook, writing down timestamps and flow levels, and when I asked what it was for, he said documentation, in this flat voice that made my skin crawl. I'd catch him staring at me sometimes with this expression I couldn't read, like he was waiting for something. My mom stopped inviting me over after I bled through her couch, and the way she looked at me, like I was diseased, still makes me want to cry. The gynecologist prescribed birth control pills to stop the bleeding, but they made it 10 times worse. And when I called Silas crying from the bathroom floor, he seemed almost excited, asking about the color and consistency. That's when Relina, his ex-girlfriend, messaged me on Instagram. My hands were trembling as I read, "We need to talk about Silas. It's about your bleeding." We met at a coffee shop where she pulled up medical records on her phone showing she'd had unexplained bleeding for 2 months. "It started right after Silas began making me breakfast smoothies," she said. "It stopped the day I left him. But I noticed she kept shifting uncomfortably in her seat the same way I did when I felt another gush coming. When I confronted Silas that night, my voice shaking with rage and fear, he broke down sobbing. He admitted he'd been crushing Plan B pills into my smoothies because I'd mentioned wanting kids someday, and he wasn't ready. I had to grab the counter to stop myself from collapsing. But there was something wrong. That was 3 months ago. The bleeding should have stopped weeks ago according to every medical website I frantically searched. He moved out immediately, grabbing that notebook like it was precious, and I was too exhausted to stop him. Day 65 came with blood still pouring out of me. Relina finally admitted she'd lied about it stopping, pulling adult diapers from her purse. A few weeks later, I was buying pads at the pharmacy when I ran into Silas. He was already with his new girlfriend, Emily. The way he smirked made bile rise in my throat, especially when I saw Emily buying iron supplements. The detective I'd finally convinced to investigate called me 2 weeks later. They'd found Silas's search history from before he met any of us. Hundreds of searches about permanent menstruation and medical journal articles about untraceable poisons that trigger endless hemorrhaging. I threw up after that call, dry heaving over the toilet. His mother reached out after hearing about the investigation. When we met, she lifted her shirt slightly to show me her adult diaper, whispering Silas's father had done this to her 30 years ago. Her eyes were so empty when she said 30 years, I actually whimpered. When the day of the court case finally arrived, Silas's lawyer argued it was merely heavy periods, not assault. The prosecutor said they couldn't prove attempted murder, so he was let out scot-free. Update. Day 98 now, and I sleep in the bathtub because it's easier than destroying more sheets. Last night, I found his old laptop hidden in the closet. Videos of him practicing crushing different pills, perfecting the dose. In one video from 4 years ago, I heard him say, "She won't even know until it's too late to trace." I printed everything and drove to his new apartment with my own plan forming. Emily answered the door already pale. Her eyes had that same exhausted terror I see in my mirror every morning. When I handed her the evidence, she just stared at me with hollow eyes and lifted her shirt to show her own blood-soaked pad. She'd been bleeding for 2 weeks. We stood there, 2 women destroyed by the same man. Silas appeared behind her, that same smirk on his face. "You can't prove anything," he said. "It's just periods." Something snapped in me. Emily had already started recording on her phone, and when she asked him why he kept making her smoothies when she'd asked him to stop, his face changed. He grabbed for her phone and she stepped back, still recording, blood running down her leg. She looked at me with something dark in her eyes. "Let's end this," she mouthed. Full story on channel, link below.